Operation complete. Great job.
Alright, so boom, wanted to do this video for a long time. The only reason that I didn't really probably bring it out is because I wanted to make sure that I got my facts straight. If you play Sharen, and I know they got a lot of Sharen fans out there, if you play Sharen, she is probably, and I keep saying this for every character, but Sharen low-key might be her, if that makes sense. She legitimate is disgusting, and I never doubted it, but it's like, now that I use her more often, is like, have mercy, man. They reworked Sharen in the last update. I didn't see nothing wrong with her, but you know, the community always gonna complain and say that she needed a different rework. Okay, we got a rework. Releasing can enforce a disgusting buff, because this thing here is making Sharen make shit look so easy. And of course, these people here now gonna come and interrupt me while they doing a video. As I was saying, I know y'all just watched that video, but this is how I can break down what I building on Sharen, and I gonna change this view because I know I got some of y'all that just like,
yeah, that brother's starving.
Yes, sir, brother.
So first of all, we start with the trigger module, Storm Bullet. I choose to use Storm Bullet because I'm mostly gonna use her number one. As you saw in the video, I use the other skills obviously, but there's a tricky to trade a Storm Bullet. So releasing can enforce Easy Transcendent mod. I should have started with this first, but we can start with the trigger module. Storm Bullet says hitting an enemy with a piercing projectile type skill spawns an Eye of the Storm at the location that deals continuous damage. That damage is affected by equipped reactor attributes and archetypes. So you see that little electricity thing that was going on with it, like in a void? That is what controlling Starboy, I activating it there. But in order for you to actually activate that is a little tricky to trade. Not much people may not realize how to do it, but while it was using it, you got to use shot nuts first to target, obviously to stun your opponents and target. You see like it's saying, of course, they're being interrupted again. Back to what I was saying. As you can see, when you use shot nuts, your enemy gets targeted. As it says, fire shot nuts embedded in the arm forward, dealing damage to enemies and inflicting a stun. In addition, inflicts assassination target on the enemy with the highest HP. So in order for you to trigger that, you gotta hit like the elites. Obviously, something that has more HP than the regular mobs. Once you do that, use the shot nuts. Pause. Don't know who come up with that idea to give it a name with that name, but once you put the target on the elite, use your number 1, the release cannon force, and it activates. It legit activates. If you don't, elites around you, if you use the number 1 on the regular mobs, you're gonna get like a small little rotation, like a goldish looking like. But yeah, that's basically what I do for Sharen. I do it because I like the effect, honestly, and it works in my favor. Why I am constantly getting interrupted. This is what I'm talking about for the effect. Using regular release cannon force as the regular top. And I gotta shift back here a little bit because these people are really annoying me. Down to the mods. Release cannon force, I must give this 10 out of 10 because back then it was okay, but I don't think it was that strong. But at that point, you know, nobody didn't really use Sharen that much. Even most people like myself was only using her for outposts. I miss them outpost days just to get force materials. Rest in peace. Then my Sharen, more HP, less MP. Take a little chunk off for that day. Combine that with increased HP. I believe that Sharen need a little bit more HP depending on just based off how I play, and I like to be, you know, up close. I like to be far, you know, it depends on what it is. But if you're doing a mob, you're mobbing with a lot of people, you know, enemies like to board you, you know what I mean? So you want to be got enough survivability. I'm not a person that like to run glass cannon, but if you like running glass cannon, that's up to you. We make that clear. Focus on electric, boosting her electric skill power boost ratio, dangerous ambush. I was a little decisive on this, but I think dangerous ambush goes hand in hand with Sharen, the way how she plays, especially when she goes invisible. There are some mobs that could actually still see you invisible on the top, but like I said, once you invisible and use whatever skill afterwards, I seriously got to move from this location. As I was saying, I forgot what I was saying.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Based off the fact that, I mean, especially using invisibility when landing a skill attack where the enemy is not targeting you or, you know, able to see you, obviously your skill power boost modifier jumps another 24.9%. And on skill attack against immobilized enemies based on skill power boost ratio modifier increased by 49.8%. Moving on, we got front lines, increase the skill hit damage and the critical hit rate. Skill concentration, you know, increasing more damage because you want to put more damage on Sharen. He's a beast. Skill expansion for range, and I kind of gonna explain why I took this route. Yes, you should have range. Obviously, if you're mobbing, you want to have more range to clear everything inside the room or whatever situation you're doing in. It comes in handy to have range. MP conversion and nimble fingers, you know, them is your go-to for cooldown. You kind of want to spam the number 1 and all your skills pretty much for Sharen unless you're going bossing, but these two going hand in hand. The runner up for my Transcendent mod, this is what I'm actually using. I fusion skill power boost ratio, which is the attribute. They increase more range and it got increased more hit rate. This honestly wasn't my go-to to start with it. I choose to use this Transcendent module, the fact that it was giving me more attribute. Like I tell y'all, if y'all increase more attribute, you get a little bit more power. Most people didn't believe me, but all of a sudden, I ain't gonna call the names cause ain't really my problem. But one of the big YouTubers, content creators for DFD, all of a sudden he wasn't explaining this to the community. All of a sudden he make a video a day or two ago realizing the attribute gives you a lot more power just by adding on more attribute power. Most people was using crit damage and what's not. Yes, I understand everybody want crit, everybody want hit like decent damage on thing, but you know, all of a sudden whatever he said, he's the prophet now telling everybody that this is what you need to do and everybody believing it. But people started to come at me when I was saying it and telling me that I didn't know what I was doing.
What?
But nevertheless, moving on to this situation at hand. Initially, the Transcendent mod that I was using was actually this one. Taking a different route due to the fact that I was not going to use attribute to increase the attribute because I got this is a pretty damn good Transcendent role here, I'm gonna lie. for the fact that I getting the boost of the electric skill power boost ratio at 77.5%, the hit rate would have put me at max. As you can see, I would have had 183.2%. That would have boosted me pretty good, not gonna lie. Hit rate would have been through the roof, which is fine. I got options that I could play with, as you can see. So if that's the case, I would have probably take out skill expansion, and I know range is better, but you know, it's better overall, but I try to take the risk without using range to see how Sharen does, and she still slap differently without range. But you know, like, I still enforce people to try things, still try the attribute, increasing your attribute, try to balance. You gotta try to balance a lot of things on these characters, because you gotta sacrifice a lot of things. Either you sacrifice damage for HP, range for duration, something gonna get cut regardless, but depends on how you play. That's how it goes. All right, moving on to the weapons. The weapons I was using for this one is the blue beetle. Obviously the skills I was using for Sharen are fusion type, so obviously having this as a stat state, you get kill crit 100% the time. I don't really use it that much, like I said. This is the same build I was using from the last video. Nothing in change. I have my shadow 99.9% the time. You're gonna see me with my shadow regardless, but these are the rules. King Girl's Lance, I don't know why I had it on, but you know, I gotta finish off this weapon. This still in the works. Yeah, tuning. This is my tree. I have yet to put on a mutant cell. I have to put on a mutant cell, but I haven't until I probably might put on electric chain catalyst. I haven't already went through this here per se myself, but you know, once I figure out what I'm gonna use, I will just drop it in the comments. Let me know in the comments what you think is the best unit cell for Sharen. But this is my tree. I went for more cooldown because you know, I want to spam her a lot more. But if you want more damage, like I said, you can always go to this route. I'm just saying, go this route. Inversion reinforcement, these stats are running for Sharen. External components. Now, this is a little tricky one. I want to use the 200-piece set, and I got it mixed. 200-piece set and 2 ascendant armory set. The reason I went for this is because I want more cooldown. I was not really trying to use more than, you know, that much cooldown on my mods. Then I went for the ascendant armor, which is gonna cut the skill cost on using Sharen skills. These things actually add up eventually. If you don't find, you know, if you run out of money eventually, you know, you're kind of important. Although you got the helper of the game is Snowy Sled Dog. You know, he helps give you MP. I would advise everyone to max him. I just haven't got around to maxing my other 2 dogs, but you know, having it max, it gives you a little bit more MP for recovery. So if you want to go more power, I would say use Slayer Set. Slayer Set obviously gonna give you more base power, but it does eat away a lot more MP. Also, if you want to play around with components, I still recommend this Supernova. You might not hit that much, but the electric effect, I actually like seeing the electric effect. That's just me, but you got some options that you could play around with. The reactor, you technically want to use for most damage, electric skill power boost ratio with crit damage, or fusion with crit damage, your choice. If you want to put on more cooldown, electric or fusion with cooldown. If you really want to get a little precise and you see you already want to lose cooldown, you could probably try hit damage with cooldown, but I prefer to use electric skill power boost ratio or the fusion. Either or. I went for the electric obviously because I want boost her electric skill or boost ratio to the roof. Finish off. Here are my stats. So as you can see, with the Transcendent mod I had switched earlier, 183, I sacrificed the fusion skill power boost ratio, but like I said in the beginning, I had the fusion skill power boost ratio. That would have upped it a little bit more. Hit rate up to the roof max. As long as you got the blue beetle as a stat state, you're gonna get 100% uptime anyway. So kill cooldown 77.7%. Range, if you want to take your route and you know, be mindful of, you want to clear mobs, obviously you want to get more range, and that is pretty much it for these stats. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen. That is my Sharen build. I know most you probably saw others with different setups and everything, but this was working for me. Like I said, I explained to you the route I took. Think about the route you want to take for your own Sharen. There's no problem with copying mine, but make sure that you understand why I take these things, and this is why I try to explain to everyone how to use their characters in specific ways. Everybody have a different playing style, but this is mine. Let me know in the comments what y'all think of Sharen actually got this last rework. I think Sharen is underrated, to be quite honest. She is very underrated. I like her playing style now. I did like it back then, but now I like it a little more. She moving like a real assassin, and now with these swords too, not even making it worse, have mercy. Let me know in the comments who you really think is the strongest character in the game. If you all like Sharen since she got that rework. This is your host RicocheT, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.